Hello, hello. Welcome to another morning Club World Cup and transfer stream. We'll talk about Club World Cup stuff. We'll talk about transfer stuff. We'll talk about all the shenanigans you can imagine um, along the way. Um, yeah, I mean Chelsea are playing PSG in the final. I personally am very excited by getting to play the probable best team in the world. Like I'm excited about that. We got the usuals here. Thomas Wilkinson's here. Fuzzbrain's here. Lord Flacco's here. The contest for number one fan returns. Yeah, I mean I'm excited by getting to play the best team in the world. Like PSG are sick. They're really good, and they're really good at things that Chelsea struggle with. I mean, Enzo Maresca got asked like a question that was like, "Oh, you're not gonna have the ball," and he was like, "Who says we're not gonna have the ball?" Which I thought was very funny. Um, but yeah, I'm excited. So I think the lineup that I expect to play is the 11 that FotMob has as predicted, but I expect it will be Neto on the right, um, Neto on the right, and Palmer on the left. And one of the things that I think might happen is like Neto goes left to deal with Hakimi, whereas like Mendes ends up inside more, whereas Hakimi arrives back post more. Like that's a thing I think might happen. Um, but I suspect it will be Palmer winger and Kunku 10 Neto right winger. And that's mostly because I think they will want in Kunku to run beyond from central positions with Palmer being the passer. Um, that's my gut feeling. But I think there's like a lot of interesting ways Chelsea could approach this. I assume Nani Madueke is not there. Like I think that's been confirmed that he's not going to be there. Um, so I obviously don't think he'll play. Um, and I do wonder if we'll see like does Andre start instead of Nkunku to go like full three man midfield versus three man midfield. That's how I would choose to play it. Because I think that would be fun. Dominic Mom says, "Hope we do Caicedo and Santos with Enzo as the 10 control midfield." Yeah, like I would love to go big midfield three, and like let's just go, man. Like let's duke it out. That I think would be really really fun. But I don't think that's how they'll approach it. Um, Roshan Suresh says, "Do you really think Maresca starts in Kunku over Delap? I thought he'd start a striker plus João Pedro 10. If he starts all of João Pedro, Palmer, and Nkunku, that would be insane. I don't think he's going to start Delap. I'd be very surprised. And I wouldn't start him. I don't. Delap has struggled in basically every game except for Esperance de Tunis, like against much worse players than Marquinhos and Beraldo. Like, what is he gonna look like against Marquinhos? Marquinhos is gonna ragdoll Delap. That I don't think is one. Zoa says hopefully our $100 million Jacko Nico Jackson starts. Yeah, I mean I would start Nico Jackson. But you know what? I actually don't know if that's true. I think Jackson is better than João Pedro, but I think like for football to be a meritocracy is better. And like João Pedro scored 2 goals and was pretty good. Like you have to start him. I think that matters. Um, so we'll see, and I'll be very curious to see like in the big games last season. Like if you look at the big games Chelsea played last year, right, against the best teams, lose to City in what was an even game, but you went down and like didn't. I don't know. It never really felt like Chelsea were going to get back in that, even though it was an evenish game. Liverpool is a 2-1 loss, but if you remember, Liverpool had like a point 0.9 xG big chance. Um, that's like one of their goals is a huge, huge, huge chance. But like competitive. Arsenal, pretty even draw. City the second time, game is pretty even until like the team melts down with like the stupid high line that didn't work. Arsenal, pretty even but lose. Uh, Liverpool play fantastic. So like you look at it and it's like actually like we can probably hang in this game. And yeah, as Prathamesh says, like versus in big games, Maresca has gone with the 3-man midfield. That's usually been that's only sort of true. Like he has done, I think he did Caicedo at right back a few times. But we have seen 3-man midfield a lot. But with no Romeo Lavia, I think that's I don't know. I'd be surprised if he did it. Um, Jeremy Dorn, Jeremy Dern, Jeremy Dern says Jackson at 60 wouldn't hurt. Yeah, like that's the big thing. I love having the ability to do the subs with the nines. And then ZZZ says Maresca's in-game management has improved a lot this tournament, so hope we do see Nico. I don't know if that's necessarily true. Like the subs have been pretty late. Um, have been pretty late across the board, and not the subs I've loved. Um, like I think I would not overreact to the things that have gone on in this. Somebody asked Sean Cross. He said, "Would you say you're nervous or it's a bit of a free hit?" Today's totally a free hit to me. Like if you lose, the only way it goes badly is if you get blown out. Like if you lose 5-0, it's bad. But if you lose 2-1, it's like okay, like now we know we were competitive. You know what the level is of like the best teams in the world. Like that's okay. That's a good place to start. And if you win, like oh man, even better. So I don't think it's like I don't know if I'd go so far as to say free hit because like if you lose, it's gonna matter. But I think the performance is gonna mean a lot more for me than the actual result. And you know, like a thing if you look at this team last year is when the stakes got really high, like the games that were really meaningful, they did not play amazing. Um, like was not Forest Final Day was like not that big a deal, like not that great a performance rather. The final against Betis was not that great a performance, and a lot of the like clutch matches down the stretch were like just do enough to win. Everton just do enough to win. United just do enough to win. Like it wasn't fantastic. So again, it's a moment for like a lot of young players to figure out what it means um, in that moment, right? Thomas Wilkinson says, hypothetical, what would Dewsbury Hall have to do in this game for you to buy a shirt? If Kieran Dewsbury Hall came off the bench and scored the winner, I will buy a like knockoff Dewsbury Hall Chelsea kit. That's what I will do. I will buy from China a knockoff Dewsbury Hall kit. And you know what? You know what I'll do even better? If Dewsbury Hall scores the winner today, I will buy a knockoff Dewsbury Hall kit and I will give it away on stream to somebody. That's what I'll do, and I'll ship it to someone. That's what we'll do. So if Dewsbury Hall scores the winner, that's what we'll do. Yeah, so I don't know. I think a couple things to watch out for tactically that are going to be pretty interesting. Like, I'm curious how wow, what a gift. Yeah, it's a tablecloth. It's a dish rag. It'll be out of date within 3 weeks. It'll be out of date before it ships to you because the he'll be sold. Um, I think one of the things I'm most interested about is how Chelsea set up defensively. There was, let me find the tweet or the I want to find the one that he posted the other day. Yeah, so there was a post about how Chelsea were defending against Fluminense on Tuesday. Andy, I see your question, Jackson Ekitike. We'll talk about it, I promise. John McKenzie had a thing that was in relation to a post about Chelsea's out of possession setup, and basically said, "I don't think you can do this in the Premier League. You'll get skewered." Um, and the post was, "I'm not sure about this setup off the ball. Chelsea had four players with dual roles, which ultimately resulted in the Fluminense wingbacks getting possession." Um, no worries, Andy. I just want to get through the tactical stuff, and then we'll do some transfer stuff. So just ask me again later, and I promise I'll answer it. And so this is how Chelsea's press set up against uh, against Fluminense. Like nominally, you would just call this a 4-3-3, right? Like this would be two center backs, fullback, 6-8-8, winger 9. Like nominally, this is just a 4-3-3 press. I think the description of like four players with dual roles is not that accurate. Like, yes, it is true that like Neto has the role of the outside center back and the wing back. Like that is true. And yes, Marc Cucurella has to jump, but Marc Cucurella is also like very free with this player because like you have freedom. Also, there is no world where Caicedo is or where Gusto is dealing with this player. Like it is fully Caicedo's problem. So I think when you think about that, it's not necessarily true. The other thing is when you're playing teams that play that build in a three, by definition, unless you go direct player to player, your winger and your fullbacks will always have two jobs of wingback and or outside center back and wingback versus wingback and attacker of some denomination. If it's a 3-5-2, that's less true, but like Neto is always going to have the decision of am I jumping outside center back or am I screening wing back? Like that's always a decision you have to make. It's one of the reasons that like pressing back threes is really hard. It is hard for the back three to get pressure on the last line without unbalancing themselves, but it is very difficult to get pressure on them to stop them building out. Like you think about the Tuchel teams and the old clip of Pep Guardiola where he's like, yeah, the back three is so narrow and the wing backs are so wide that these distances are really difficult to manage. And then the sixes are so close together. In this case, they're not that close together. That it's very difficult to press a back three, especially when you have Thiago Silva, who is like a genuinely ridiculous passer in this position. So I would not read into it that much. However, it is a very different press than how Chelsea pressed last season, even when they played threes. Chelsea defended 4-4-2 and pressed 4-4-2 against every single team last year. It did not matter. We saw the odd 4-1-4-1, but it was like almost exclusively 4-4-2. So we'll see. Gum Memory Project says LKCOYB made a really great thread about how we should set up. Let's see. Let's see what this. If this is you, okay, it's like a big account. Chelsea versus PSG thread is out. We go to war. That's not the thread. Let's see if I can find it. How should we set up? Let's see what this guy says. How we should set up. PSG are great. Cheers. PSG are great. Also cheers. Okay. You can match up physically and technically in midfield, athletes to attack and hurt them in transition. That's only true depending who you play, right? Like, if your front three in this game is like one of Palmer and Nkunku as a winger and Neto and then João Pedro, that's not a super dangerous transition front three. Similar to us, they don't have a traditional six in midfield, so can be defensively vulnerable in those in-between moments, between phases. I think that's only kind of true. Again, like PSG, the way PSG mitigate this is they have a significantly more aggressive counter press than Chelsea do. Like if you watch, like a big thing that I would say pay attention to today if you're really locked in is like watch how aggressively Vitinha and Neves and Fabio Ruiz, if that's the midfield they go with, which I expect it will be, watch how aggressively they counter press. Like they sell out to counter press, and it works really well for them. And that's how they manage their transition moments. We have a very dangerous team because we're technical to beat the high press. Chelsea didn't have a great record playing through aggressive presses. Like Chelsea struggled a lot with Bournemouth, for example. Top players to break lines, dangerous ass. Yeah, whatever. Reminiscent of Tuchel. Player who's been crucial is Lavia. Well, Lavia's not going to play. I also think like the trade off with Lavia, right, is Bad Rabbit says PSG's counterpress feels like Pep's Barca counterpress, which is a really good comparison. Um, Zowa says last two sides to beat PSG in the league. We're back three sides with two strikers up top, Strasbourg and Nice. Full strength PSG side against the latter loss. That is true, but if you look at both of those games, it's like mostly noise. Like if I recall, the Strasbourg game is like actually PSG peppered them. Yeah, like 1.7 to 0.7, and you lose. Like it happens. And then let's see, who's the other one? Nice. PS3 3-1 Nice. Yeah, like it's 3-1 on XG the other way. Like I don't know. I don't think there's much to take away there. Not and Chelsea are never going to go back three anyways. How different are PSG from Pep team? Very different. Very different. There's the midfield three is significantly more fluid than the Pep teams. Like Vitinha, Jean Neves, Fabien Ruiz, like they will all be the six, and they will all move much more than those old PSG teams. I think actually the to me PSG feel a lot like that old Barca team, but the midfield has a bit more freedom. Yeah, so I think it's a lot more freedom. I think the wingers are actually like a really good comp, but different. Like if you think about the season where like Messi is the false nine and it's like Pedro and David Villa off of him, like that's maybe an interesting one. I don't know if those guys are the same. Like I think they're probably better. Like Villa and Pedro were better goal scorers, but these guys are like better players. Um, I don't know. I think it's an interesting comp for sure. I think if you compare to like Luis Enrique's Barca teams, I think it's totally different. Like that team was actually we're going to be way more transitional than you think we are. And PSG are deadly in transition, but I wouldn't call them a transitional team. You know what I mean? Um, Josh ZZZ says bookies of Jackson 10-1 to score. Might need to take that bet. That's honestly, it depends if he starts. I suspect it will drop significantly if he starts. But if it's one of those ones that like the bet is void if he doesn't start, probably pretty good value. Otherwise, I would wait till he gets subbed in and then I would make. Josh Harder, where's Luis Enrique in your manager rankings right now? The manager rankings are weird because like Klopp is on sabbatical, Tuchel is managing international ball, and looks like so burnt out still. Um, Pep, I think, is still the best manager in the world. And then you just have like a cavalcade of guys who are like, I don't know how good these guys are. Like Xabi Alonso's probably good. His Madrid team has kind of stunk so far without a preseason, admittedly. Like let's see where he gets. I think Slot's a very good coach. I don't know. Let's see. Uh, so like I think Luis Enrique is like towards the top of the non-Pep band is where I would put him. I don't think these things happen in like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 orders. I think it's like tiers, where like Pep is just obviously the best coach in the world, and then it's like the next tier of these guys are obviously pretty good. Um, in like Enrique and Tuchel and or whoever. Where was that in Ancelotti? Ancelotti was like super legit early years. His his Real Madrid teams survived very heavily on black magic and Real Madrid juju. Like he Ancelotti was very good in like the less structured days because he was really good at keeping excellent players happy and getting everybody on the field in a coherent way. And I just think like that's not enough anymore. Like you need many more ideas in and out of possession now, even with the best players. Like you look at these Enrique PSG teams and like these guys are amazing players. Like João Neves, I look back at and I'm like, I can't believe everybody let PSG have him for not very much in the fee. Um, like just objectively, a lot of great players, and like their press is deadly. Their ideas are so clear in possession. Like people are going to talk about what they do with their fullbacks and where they go and the rotations and whatever and blah blah blah. And like there are like real rigid principles about spaces to fill and who fills them is flexible. But like to get great players to buy into your ideas is like what makes you a special coach. Um, so I think that's good. Bad Rabbit says I think Adam Cleary did a video about how PSG were repeatedly dropping their midfield to right back to suck in the press and walk the fullbacks up the pitch with no pressure. So one of the things like we talk about, and this is a thing that you will see is like people call it a midfield low rotation. So like what happens, and it's pretty common, is you'll see like James will get high, Caicedo will drop into right back, and then Neto will fill a space in midfield. And the point of doing this rotation is like if we bring everybody back to their first step, is like let's say James gets high, so he brings the winger with him. Caicedo then drops into that space. But now there's like a space inside for Neto to show in because like the winger isn't inside screening anymore. But the second is like, okay, midfielder who is marking Caicedo, do you follow him out? And if the answer is yes, you follow him out, then Chalobah can break a line and you get to attack things centrally. If he doesn't follow him out, you've now moved what is in theory a better passer, right? Because your midfielders on average are better passers than your fullbacks. If you think about PSG, all of those midfielders are better passers than Hakimi or Nuno Mendes. And they were dropping two midfielders to sit in front of the two center backs. That's not to right back, though. Oh, you meant right back as in all the way back. I see. Anyways, this is what a midfield low rotation is, and basically you just open up really favorable spaces with it. In terms of dropping your sixes really, really close to the center back, it's the same. It's the same principle, right? Like Chelsea do this a lot. They did it under Tuchel. They did it under Maresca, where like if you bring these players really, 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 really deep, it pulls numbers forward, and then you have spaces to play into the front three and attack from there. So like it's very valuable to be able to do that. But you need players who are able to like turn and go if they have to, but also receive under pressure and keep it in that tight space. And he says, isn't it insane we paid a bomb friends and Benfica produced a comfortably better player immediately? I don't know if I would describe João Neves as comfortably better. I think they're different. Like, I think João Neves, I think his best comp is probably N'Golo Kante. Like, I think, and that's an amazing, amazing player. I just think they're different. But I think if you were to put a Chelsea midfield three of Caicedo, João Neves, and Enzo Fernandez, you'd be like, oh my god, wouldn't that be nice? Like I think Andre is probably a pretty good comp for him. He's a much better passer than Andre, and he's more secure in possession. Like he's a much better player than Andre is. But I think that's actually a reasonably good comp. India Kitchen says, I thought Arsenal were the better team against PSG in two legs. Just not smart enough to understand what they did better, though. And I also thought, I also thought that like Liverpool were better than them in their tie. Like PSG were very fortunate to advance against Liverpool if you go back and look at that tie overall. But they're very good. Like this is the thing I look at. Like um, I think you're gonna see like Chelsea are not gonna be that far off of it. You know what I mean? Um, what does Enzo do better than Neves? Enzo's a significantly better goal scorer than Neves. Like not close. He gets in the box significantly more, and I think he is a better creative passer in terms of creating chances for others. I think Neves is significantly more mobile. He's definitely better defensively, and he's much more secure in possession, like as a dribbler. But I think Enzo Fernandez is a much better scorer and creator than Neves is. Like Neves in a significantly more dominant team in league put up basically the same numbers um, as Enzo Fernandez, probably less actually. Yeah, a little bit less, um, but plays for a way better team in a worse league. Like I think that is pretty clear. But John Neves is nice, good player, very very good player. ZZZ, very unrelated thoughts on George Campbell. The West Brom looks to be a Steve. Let's go into the transfer stuff because we're gonna get the lineup in a hot second. It actually might be out already. Actually, let's finish this thread first, and then we'll get the lineup, and then we'll do transfer stuff. So I will come back to George Campbell, but I like George Campbell as a prospect. I haven't seen what the number is though. So ZZZ, if you see a fee, let me know what the number is. I'm gonna leave Lavia out of my setup. I don't think João Pedro and Delap start together, so I'm like kind of out. 3-3-4 with like the double false nines. Yeah, it did happen a few times. I'd be pretty surprised if this is how Chelsea chose to play. What I this I totally disagree with. This I totally disagree with. Like Cucurella 1v1 in the channels is definitely going to struggle more than that. I don't think that's the one. I don't know. Let's see. I think it'll be interesting. The lineup should be. I think they've been doing it an hour and a half before, but it might be an hour 15. So we'll see. Ornstein says Gyökeres is about to be done. Final steps. That's interesting. Essie says, how do I feel about Barcola's progression as an attacker? I think if you look at the steps Barcola took going from a good Lyon team, but not amazing Lyon team, to a PSG team where he is expected to be dominant, it looks exactly how you would want it to look. Where his XG and his XA go way up, his shot volume goes way up, his shot creation volume goes way up. Like it's everything you would like to see in that player. The thing with me with Barcola is like he has traded some of the other parts of his game for more shots. So when you look at like what and it's weird because it looks like everything he does is better because like he just plays for a way better team. But like the shot volume and the shots created and the XG of those shots have all come up more than the other parts of his game. I think you've seen him like give up some of those things to be more ruthless, which is good. Caicedo, João Pedro start. So says the chat. Let's see. Lavia makes the bench. Delap and Jackson on the bench. So just put the lineup out. You have it. So just tweet a picture of it. It's not that hard. So we'll see. That'll be interesting. I think his finishing diversity and dribbling creativity has suffered. He looks a lot better on the left than the right. That I agree with. I don't like him as much on the right as on the left. I do like him as like a back post driver though. ZZZ fee north of 1 million for George Campbell. I think that's a reasonable fee for him. Like they traded like 400,000 for him 2 years ago. I think I think George Campbell's nice, like very good athlete. I think he'll translate to the championship. Like I think that's a very low risk signing at that fee. Um, in before Reese's DM. Yeah, that's the one that I'm waiting for. Okay, here's the team. Gusto starting. No, it's Reese in midfield. No. No. Why are you doing this to me? I don't deserve this. No Nkunku. It's Gusto at right back and James in midfield. Why? 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 Also, I have breaking news to report to you all that Dimitri has fixed the McClockbot glitch so that Estevao's forehead is no longer massive. So this is the worst day ever. You now have no longer massive forehead Estevao, and Gusto starts, and James in midfield. Man, why? Why are you doing this? I gotta see. What's the score of this? Oh, Sinner's gonna take the third set. Nice. Man, I don't like that at all. I don't like that at all. At all. At all. At all. At all. I don't get it. I don't. I really. I'm very confused. I don't think this is going to go well. That's how I will. Is it Gusto is firmly in the like he's firmly in. If you've watched Moneyball, they like trade the first baseman just repeatedly until the coaches force to play Scott Hatterberg at first base. Like that's what the directors need to do with Gusto. Just like get rid of this guy, please. Please. Oh no. Stephen Clark says fellow Wasserman agency member unmovable from the starting limit. I don't think that's a real thing, by the way. So like what I will say is this. I am like quite good friends with someone who was very high up in Wasserman. Not soccer, but very high up in Wasserman for a different sport. That is not really how these things work. There is definitely like when the club is negotiating with a player of a specific agency and they want other players from that agency or that agency has other players they might be interested in, they will definitely relax on the negotiations to make other things more favorable. That's definitely a thing that happens. But I don't think like coaches are playing players to do that. You know what I mean? Josh Otter, what does Gusto have to do in this match to get you to to buy his shirt? If Gusto, I'll put the same rules. If Gusto or KDH score the winner today, I will give their shirt away on stream. On the double pivot, they theorize that good dribblers should develop into high XG players since they already have the skill to create space and just need to learn pattern recognition. That's an interesting thought. I think it's broadly pretty true. Like if you think about the number of players who became very effective, the PSG lineup is exactly what we thought it was, so that's fine. If you think about the number of really like high volume dribblers to not create stuff, it's not a big track record. Like Adama, and then like midfield guys who like didn't play for far enough forward. Like Usama Asaidi, like there's not that the list of guys who could like legitimately go past people and not turn into stuff is interesting. So actually, that's probably a point in Gitten's favor. Um, so we'll see. Andrew Ford, he really is going out of his way to not play Santos. I again, the thing I think that like I I don't agree with this, but the thing that seems to be the case is that he is very much not. He's really trying to not play new guys as much as he can. Like I know João Pedro is starting, but other than the striker position and Andre starting when Reece felt something, he has very much gone out of his way to not play any of the new guys. So we'll see. We'll see what it looks like. I'm pretty curious what side Palmer's on, what side Neto's on. I think that'll be an interesting one to track. And I beg to all that is holy, people don't call this a 4-2-2 again. What if he shocks us all and goes 3-4-3? Yeah, wouldn't that be something? Maybe. You never know. I think we'll see. We'll see. So Andy asked, like, compare Jackson and Ekitike. So I think the thing, if you want to compare these two guys, is that Ekitike is like just a much better in possession guy at like everything. He's a much better passer. He's a much better, not much better dribbler, but he's a better dribbler. He's like cleaner in his link play. Jackson is really, really good at those things, and Jackson is definitely better defensively than Ekitike. I think he's also better running the channels. Like Ekitike is fast, but he's not quick, if that makes sense. Like once he gets up to speed into the channel, he's good, but Jackson is better at getting into the channel. Probably an average finisher. I think they're like reasonably similar players. Just like take out some of Jackson's defending and give it all to Ekitike playmaking stuff. I think Ekitike is great. I'm very curious to see what happens with him this summer because like they have no incentive to move him now. So we'll see. Lord Flacker, who do you think gets done, Jackson or Delap? That's a very good question. It's a very good question. I think it depends on the moment, right? Like if it's the 60th minute and you're losing, but excuse me, if it's the 60th minute and you're losing, but you have control of the game and you want the box presence, probably Delap. I think in most other situations, it's going to be Jackson. There's also worlds where you go like Jackson as a winger or João Pedro as a winger, Jackson as a 9, or João Pedro as a 10 and Delap or whoever as a 9. Like you have options to get there. If you sell Jackson for 100 million and just bring in Ekitike for the same number, how would you grade that business? I would do that deal. Sell Jackson for 100, bring in Ekitike for the same. Especially, I will say, if it's dead even money, I wouldn't feel great about it. I'd do it still, but I wouldn't be like super happy. Because just you're taking in a certain amount more risk, right, by doing that. Whereas like Jackson is like pretty good, and you know he's pretty good in your league, and with your team and your system and all those sorts of things. If it was like you sell Jackson for 100 and you buy Ekitike for 80 plus 20, I'm all over it. But I think like price agnostic, I would take Ekitike. You also have to be careful with the wages and some other things, but price agnostic, I would take Ekitike. Yeah, that's an interesting one. So we'll see. We'll see on that side. I think the other one that came up was like Madueke and the winger markets. Like obviously Madueke is gone. He's having his medical today. He's moving for 48 plus 4, says Ornstein. I think that's a garbage fee. You look at the Alanga deal, you look at the Gittins deal, you look at the other wingers, like that's garbage pricing. Like, this is a player who improved tremendously last season. He played more, He scored more. He created more. He did everything. He improved defensively. Like, everything was better from him last season. And, like, I feel like you're probably selling low on that. There was Scott Willis, who's an Arsenal guy. Um, posted a goal probability added. So it's players with 60% of their team minutes. It is a possession value model. Madueke is the number one player in the league. The number one player in the league by goal probability added, created from carrying and dribbling. I think carrying is a very overrated skill. But the dribbling stuff is a huge. And like, that's just a list of like a whole bunch of guys who drive winning. Like Heung-min Son is great. Salah's great. Garnacho's awesome. Gordon's awesome. I really like Martinelli. Mitoma is great. Hudson-Odoi, very useful for Forest. Luis Diaz was great. Semenyo was great. Johnson, very good. Neto pops up. Cliver, like, it's a lot of good players on this list. And so I look at that, I'm like, and Andy says it's very funny. All the Piss Goldberg types are celebrating the Nani sale and want Rodgers in. Well, every smart person thinks this was not the guy to sell. I'll tell you this. Everybody who leaked shit from Chelsea is telling everyone and their mother, oh, Rodgers. Rodgers is so good. Look at Rodgers. You see it every week. And, like, I'm not a big conspiracy theorist about, like, what gets told to social media people, but, like, when there's group chats and people send the, like, oh, make sure you have a look at Rodgers, and then 5 minutes later there's a tweet from all the names and it's like, oh yeah, Morgan Rodgers, I don't know, Morgan Rodgers, like, really? Not that good, man. I don't think he's great, and he's also not a legit left winger. He's like a second striker, which, if you have not checked, Chelsea have 10 of. So that, I think, is whatever. And again, yeah, like you said, the Nani sale. Every single smart person, every single person who like thinks about data at all, is like, I don't know, Nani Madueke seems pretty good, guys. Like, are you sure you really want to move him? And like, we've talked about this on stream, we've talked about it on the podcast. There are legitimate cases to be made about you wanting to sell Madueke. You can look at his injury record. You can look at him being dropped by multiple coaches across a number of games, and for attitude / application / whatever, all of those things. And you can look at that and say, hey, like, it's okay. It's okay to say, like, fine, we'll move him. But then the price for that should reflect that. Like, you look at Madueke. How is Nani Madueke moving for less than Gittins? Jiba Football says buy and flip. That's the model. We're a rich Dortmund. That doesn't even make sense. That doesn't make sense, though, because you should be selling for more than. Like, there's no incentive for you to get this deal done this week. Dropped by 2 managers for poor trading behavior. Recently has been at left wing because he lost his starting spot. He didn't even lose his starter. It's not like Neto won the starting spot, though. Neto just got given it. Like, it's not like Neto was playing meaningfully better. I do agree. I think it's an odd deal for Arsenal. But I think when you think about League, Champions League, Cups, this is now 2 seasons in a row that their season has fell down because of a lack of depth. He's very good Saka insurance. He can be pretty good. He can be 90% of what he's supposed to be as a left winger. I think it's fine. I think from their side, like, I think it's good. So I think we'll see on that side. Andrew Ford, who are the new guys other than the strikers and Santos who could plausibly start a game this says? I mean, you could play Sarr, you could have played Penders, they could have brought Petrovic in, they could have done many things, and they chose not to, for whatever reasons. How do I think James will perform in midfield today? The same as every other time he plays in midfield. A step slow and a yard late. Like he's not a high level midfielder. He is an ultra high level right back and he's not a high level midfielder. He cannot turn under pressure. He's not good playing in one touch. He's not good at checking his shoulder to turn. He's very bad playing with his back to play. He needs the game in front of him, and he's excellent when the game is in front of him. But that's not what he gets to do in midfield. Maresca has indicated that players are in starting pots for what they do in training as much as what they do on the pitch. That's true to an extent. Jeremy Dern also does bring up that that Nani had to play on the left because Neto was bad, and Neto was originally brought to fill a need on the left. I agree with that, by the way. I think that Neto was actually originally supposed to play as a left wing. We'll see. It tracks that Maresca doesn't like Nani's playing style, gets the ball, wants to take on a player, not similar to strength. I don't agree with that. That's the whole point. Like, that's the whole Maresca thing is like, I'll get you a million 1v1s, and I want you to go past people, and that's the thing Madueke does. So I don't really agree with that. What I've heard is that Madueke went to Chelsea at the end of the season and said, I am the least paid winger by far, but I think I'm the best winger here. I should get a raise. That's the thing that I heard. That he was like, I'm making 50 grand a week and Pedro Neto makes triple me and he scored less goals than me. This is bullshit. That's what I heard. So like what same with when you see the prop, like, oh, he's making the same money at Arsenal. No, he's not. That is not correct. So like, yeah, they're definitely what, like Crip says, how do you not see that Madueke pushed out? Yeah, it's definitely part of it. It's definitely part of it. And it's totally fair but I also think it's fair for Nani to say, hold on, this guy makes so much more than me. What the fuck is going on here? Knicks, there are reports Arsenal's paying the same wage package. That is objectively not true. I know for a fact that is not true. Fuzzbrain, I hate how Nani pulls down his shorts every 2 seconds. This is the thing with Nani that, like, I don't think people have clocked. I don't like Nani as a player. I would find it very difficult as his coach to put aside that, like, I don't like him and he's good. Because both of those things are true. He is objectively good. He's useful. He's good at the things that he's improved. But also, I find him infuriating to watch. The mistakes he makes are so frustrating. So frustrating. And, like, the shorts thing really bothers me, but that's just, like, a personal thing. Like, it has nothing to do with him as a player, but I really hate it. Thomas Wilkinson, do you see Gittins had a £35 million release clause if Dortmund missed Champions League? I did not see that. That's interesting. I would have said, no, we're paying the clause. Fuck you guys. So we'll see. I wonder how much the 8-year contract factors into Nani's thought process. That's 100%, like, the other half of it, right? Oh, Sinner broke. He broke him. Let's go. That's the other part of it, right? Like, is you have this incentivized contract that's supposed to raise as you go up and you perform and whatever, and then it doesn't raise, and you're like, oh my god, I have another 5 years on this deal. Like, get me out of here. And so, yeah, you have control over the sale price. But again, this comes back to, how are you only moving him for 52 and not 62? And, like, am I making a mountain out of a molehill of, like, 10 million? Does the 10 million really matter that much? And the answer is, like, maybe not. Maybe not that much. But cumulatively is, like, you have to manage all of those. You know what I mean? Josh Otter, Nani's wages are the problem. That both the double pivot and here, I think, with the long contract stuff, only works until a guy's better than his salary. Better habits, if he doesn't have to leave and doesn't get a raise, he's never going to escape it. Yeah, this is the thing, right? It's like, you just have to manage that. Rahul Ranjan asks, will Madueke be a one that got away or only shows potential but never reaches it? If you asked me Nani last season's metrics, and let's say he finishes at that level, so he's like a 10-4. He's like a 15 goal assist a season guy, right? Like let's put him there. Um, let's put him at a 15 goal a season guy for last season, because like maybe he plays a little bit more, maybe he plays a little bit less, but like let's leave it there. I think the probability that he becomes meaningfully better than that is not that high. Like I think maybe 20% chance. But I also think the chance that he is sufficiently worse than this that you couldn't get that same amount of money next summer is very low, like 5-10%. Lower than the upside risk for sure. And I think when you think about like these asymmetric risk profiles, you have to get compensated for that. Like, for example, the reason that Chelsea want a really big fee for Carney Chukwuemeka, like they want 40 million for Carney Chukwuemeka, is because they're like, yeah, this guy's obviously good. He just can't get on the field. And like we see, he hasn't played that much or that well or whatever. But like we want the fee to be big to cover the fact that like this guy might be really good. The same way when Chelsea sold Kevin De Bruyne to Wolfsburg, they got a pretty big fee at like 28 million almost. I think it might have been 19 million. But then they got a huge sell on to cover the upside risk of like, okay, if he explodes, we're going to get paid. Chelsea moving Madueke for 48 plus 4, you've covered none of the upside risk. Like I would have actually preferred to do a lower upfront fee but significantly more add-ons. Like if you do, for example, not 48 plus 4, but you do 38 plus 25 or plus 20. No, it would have to be more like 25. So it's like, okay, the deal can peak at 63, so 11 million pounds higher, and the average outcome is more like 52. You cover up a lot of that upside risk where like if Arsenal win the league or he scores 20 goals, you're like, okay, yeah, but we got 20 million extra out of it. You know what I mean? Or however you chose to structure that deal. And really, the original sin here, somebody commented this on the podcast video, the original sin here is like not getting Olise and then having to deal with all this with Neto is the real problem here. And I've started to like retcon this deal as like Kepa left for free and Madueke moved for 52 plus 5 because Kepa moved for 5. Like that's how I'm doing the math in my head. If I'm the directors, I have to ask Maresca what he sees James in midfield. Yeah, that's a weird one. Does the fixed add-ons breakup suggest Madueke will be backup or just poor negotiation? No, my guess is actually Arsenal probably wanted more fixed because I think if they think he's going to push them over the top, that if they think he's going to push them over the top, you don't want add-ons tied to his success or team success here. Invisibility Cloak says, I found this to be simple. The club believe at this stage Esso has a better upside than Nani, and by giving him Madueke next year minutes, his development is only going to benefit the team. I do think that Estevao looking significantly quicker made this deal easier to do on Chelsea's side, for sure. And I don't think that's wrong. What else? What else we got? What else we got in here? Oh, the reason I brought this up is because I want to talk about Johan Bakayoko, who is, I think Johan Bakayoko is a really interesting gamble for Leverkusen. So he's going to move to Leverkusen for 20 million euros. He's already agreed a 5-year contract with them, blah, 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 blah. I think, and again, you have the problem of like he's a left-footed, mostly right winger. I look at it and I'm like, I think you would be so much smarter to go get him for 20 million and say, hey, like, we love the fee, we like the player, we think there'll be enough minutes for him with Madueke gone. You cut your amortization cost pretty significantly, and you can do the same thing where he plays a year and a half at Chelsea. Like, you look at it at 20 million, and he's 22. He plays a season and a half at Chelsea, and he plays 3,000 minutes in that year and a half. You're telling me that you can't move him to a Premier League team for 35 million euros and double your money? You're telling me you can't, like, you can't do that? Because I look at this and I'm like, at 20 million euros, your risk is zero. Like, this is legit. Yes, it's Eredivisie and league translation is awkward. This is real. Like, this is solid. And so, and even if you look Champions League, he's like 0.4 in the Champions League. So it's like, okay, if he comes to Chelsea and he's a 0.4 XG plus XA guy, guess what? That's netto. Like, you could make a profit if you'd paid 20 million euros for netto pretty easily, I think. So that's one I'm like, I definitely would have been interested in that particular deal at that price. And who knows if that's the price, if it's Chelsea calling it, not Leverkusen, but like, I would be interested at that price. Somebody asked me, do I think Jackson moves this summer? And Thomas Wilkinson said, do you think if Delap subs in, the chances he leaves ramps up? I do not think Jackson will leave, because I think that the club actually do have a very high number for him, and they should have a very high number for him. I don't think he will leave, even if he does not sub on today. I would be pretty surprised, unless a very, very sizable bid came in, like north of 80. We'll see. We'll see. Roshan Suresh Estevo might have more upside, but the absolute most important thing next year is to make Champions League again, to keep that revenue consistent year over year. Yeah, I think the biggest priority next year is like stabilize, come third or fourth again, and like chill out. Stay Champions League, do your thing, get into the knockouts. It's all good. Like, that's my goal for next year. And if you can do that while like betting in Andre and Esteval, I think that's all good. Josh Otter says, off topic, but I don't know the backstory with your Carlitos hate. I'm a Sinner fan myself, but curious your reasoning. So my reasoning today is because I'm in a thing called Omni, which is a fantasy sport that you draft teams from. I'll actually just like open it. You draft teams from like 20 different sports, and you draft like different sports and you play all the way through, and based on how they finish in those different sports, you get points, and then there's a winner. And so me and my friends have a big gambling league on this. And so in not this one, but in another one, if Sinner beats Alcaraz today, I get like $1,500. So that's why I'm against Carlitos today. And if he doesn't, I only get like 800. But Alcaraz reminds me of Nadal, and I hated Nadal so much. I never liked Nadal. If they sell Jackson, do they go into the season with Delap and Pedro? No, I would bet they go buy somebody. Thing is, striker market sucks. Who else do you get? I'm not a big fan of Ekitike, and Osimhen's never going to happen. Gyökeres is still there. Sesko is still there. There's a whole bunch of them. But you're right. I think outside of the big names, I don't think the striker market is super high. I think you're buying like a Jackson 1.0, like the original projection. Like, it's not Tierno Barry because he's moved, but someone like that. Promise David or someone like that. You know what I mean? Ramos. Oh, PSG Ramos would be interesting, but I don't think he's the right profile, but something like that. No, none of those names are better than Jackson, but it is you move Jackson for a big fee, and then you go buy someone for the original Jackson fee that's like 90% of what he is now, and then you play him more, and then you make him better, and so on, so on, so on. Like, that's, if you're gonna do the player trading thing, it has to be like like you look at Brighton, okay? Like, not that Brighton are the paragon of a well-run club, right? But Brighton, I think, are pretty smart. Brighton buy Caicedo for nothing, for very, very little, and he hits, right? So you go back and look. You go back and look at like their deals. So let me find. So they buy a whole bunch of gambles. They buy a whole bunch of gambles in midfield. They buy Kasper Kozlowski. They buy Enoch Mwepu. They buy. They just buy a whole bunch of midfield gambles. I think the window before this, they bought Caicedo, who was not that much. That's after the add-ons. They buy a whole bunch of gambles, and they go through and like only really Caicedo hits of those gambles. So then they go buy a couple other guys. They buy Billy Gilmore off Chelsea. They move some of the fringe guys off. And then they move Caicedo. Before they move Caicedo, they've already bought Baliba. And they brought in Dahoud on a free, very low risk. They bring in Milner on a free, very low risk. And then they bring in João Pedro as an attacker. And then before they move João Pedro, they go bring in Minte and Ruter and all these other guys. Like, that's solid. And then when the next guys go out, you've already brought in the next dudes. You know what I mean? And it's just like you can cycle and cycle and cycle and cycle, and all of a sudden you end up with like what looks like a pretty good team, and you're pretty happy with it overall. So we'll see. Is there anything on the pitch that you look at that makes you agree that Gittins is more valuable than Nani? I think Gittins' dribbling is probably not that different from Nani in terms of value provided. I mean, I can look at that, which is fun. I keep forgetting to close this. So let's see. Let's do a little player comparison here. So if we go Madueke last season versus player two Gittins. Let's see what comes up on. My guess is the dribbling in particular will pop. Yeah, very similar in the dribbling. That's not shocking to me. Pretty similar defensively, also not shocking to me. I'm not terribly surprised by this. That is, I think like Gittins, the dribbling stuff will be pretty good. In a meritocracy, doesn't Jackson get the starting spot with Pedro playing off him? I think in a meritocracy, Jackson is just the starter, but we'll see. Why would stabilizing be a good season? Don't understand why the aim, given our spend, would be to close the gap. We only accept this because we know we're doing dreadful business. I don't. What I would say is like stabilizing isn't the goal, but I think that's like the minimum acceptable. I think it's understated how difficult. I think it's understated how difficult stabilizing as a top Champions League team is. But I agree. I think we are like. I just think the businesses they're stupid every window, and so I have to grade them on a baby scale because they're dumb. You know what I mean? So like, it's fine. I think it's not good, but it's like the same way Champions League this year is not like the coach and the directors are not getting A+ grades because they made the Champions League last season, right? Like we're all like, yes, awesome, we made the Champions League, but it's not like you're so good at your job. It's okay, you met expectations. And that is how I would view stabilizing in Champions League, third, fourth, open up the point. Like I think the real one is if you look at the Premier League table from last year, and so like you look at last year and it's 3 points from fifth, 0 points from sixth. I suspect that the Premier League will have 5 spots every season. It would be very unlikely just based on how they do in the Conference League and whatever. I think you look at this and you're like, okay, can you open the gap between fourth and fifth or fifth and sixth to like 6, 8, 9, 10 points now? That to me is like stabilizing here is not 69. Stabilizing here is 75. I just don't think we should be like, you got to clear 80. I think that's tough. I think they're still pretty far off of that particular ask. I can never figure out how a couple of PE guys got enamored with player trading. It just isn't a smart way to make money, far more efficient ways. And Andrew Ford says, I find it funny our owners cite Brighton's player trading profits as the model they want to copy, ignoring that almost all of it comes from them. I don't agree with that. I don't think that's true. Because like you look at it, right? Let's just like think about that for a second. Liverpool bid the exact same amount of money as Chelsea for Caicedo on the same day. So like that deal goes to them. Cucurella had a bid for like 5 million less to Man City that didn't happen. That the deal didn't go through. So like they could have also done that deal. João Pedro, Chelsea bid 5 million more than Newcastle did. Like 100%. We consistently qualified and actually won things before we spent 1.5 billion. But that's not really true, right? Like Roman Abramovich did spend 1.5 billion. That's how they got them to consistent qualification. That's how they got there, was they spent £1 billion, were the best team all through the 2010s, and then they missed it 1 year and then spent a whole bunch of money again to get back there. Like it's not their business sucks, but like that is what happened. They did spend that much money to get. And I mean, I agree with you. I expect more of this. Nobody's saying that we don't expect more of it from that. I'm just saying, like, a level 2 or whatever, a C grade is stabilized at like 7 points better or something like that. And as Benjamin Stanishevsky says here, I think a big part of it is like they're young. They are super, super young. Like that those teams have inherently pretty high error bars. Brian Smith, what do you think it takes to get to 80 points? A Van Dijk type center back, a goalkeeper. If you gave me the club, said, Kieran, you're the director, and you have 2 seasons to get north of 80 points, what do you do? The first thing I do is like I trim so much of the fat to just like understand where we are from a wages perspective. In terms of incomings, number one thing I am doing is I am looking for my like lifetime right center back next to Levi Colwill. If that's not Fofana, based on what the people at Chelsea know, like that's what I'm looking for. Is I'm looking for my number one guy, my superstar that's like 25, and I'm going to pay a fat fee. The second thing I'm looking at is like I'm looking at my superstar left winger. And honestly, I'm probably looking for that first. Like I am again going to PSG and saying, give me Barcola for 100 million. I've heard and other people have heard, and there's like a lot of whispers, like Rodrigo seems like a real thing. Rodrigo seems like a real thing, that there might actually be a deal that happens there. We'll see. His data as a left winger is really good. There's just not that much of it. We'll see. But like left winger, center back, and then goalkeeper is like a deal I'm always looking to do, but waiting. And then other than that, like the first season, if you were to say, okay, like start of the summer, you get summer, January, and then we see where you're at. This summer would have been outbounds, backup 9, backup left back, star left winger, and that would have been it. That would have been all I would have done. Andy, Rodrigo to Chelsea seems like a real thing. Yeah, that's what I've heard, is that might be a real conversation that's happening. I don't know what that means, but I think it's like I don't think that's a pipe dream. I think it's a realistic deal that could happen. So that's what I would do this summer. Is I would have mostly done outbounds. I would have got a backup 9 behind Jackson, like one of João Pedro or Delap, right? Like I didn't like the Delap deal particularly, but I think he's fine. Um, I would have got the backup left back, and I would have got the superstar, super duper star left winger. Um, in probably Barcola is the guy that I would have got. HK, I really think you're underestimating Gittins. I just wouldn't have bought Gittins, not at the number they wanted. And then in January, it's like, okay, what can we do at center back? And figure out, okay, after another season, where do we feel like we're being let down? Especially with the vein of like, okay, now you have Andre as a legitimate midfield option for that you could not rotate at all last year. Like Caicedo played every single game. I'd be thinking much more about Josh playing. So like, does that mean Malo Gusto's out? Is Josh going to be that guy? And that's kind of where I would start. And then in the summer, you have a year of like, okay, what's Esteval? What are my nines? What are my center backs? You have much more clarity about where everyone's at. You have much more clarity about where Penders is at. I probably would have moved Jorgensen and brought Petrovic back and kept him and Sanchez and like run those as my keepers this year. And then you see. And then the next summer, it's like, okay, has Fofana figured out his fitness stuff, and do we need to go get a superstar center back? So, yeah, no, he hasn't. Yes, we do. Okay, so let's figure out who the best right-footed center back on the market is and go from there, or whatever. Roshan Suresh, Delap deal works because English and 10 Premier League teams will think they can fix him if it doesn't work out in 2 years. 100%. You'll get most of your money back no matter what. You're not moving him for a loss, certainly, along the way. So we'll see. The invisibility cloak, how much do we need to sell in order to register players for Champions League, is based on profit made on the sales or just sales in general. So, where is Seb Anderson? I don't know Seb Anderson's at. Sinner serving for the match. Let's go, baby. I can't. Does anyone know what Seb Anderson's ad is? The financial data guy. I can't. I don't know why it's not coming up. I don't know. If somebody knows who that is in relation to Chelsea, thank you, Seb _ Anderson. And it's an EN, not an ON. No, you're a liar. Bad rabbits. Okay, there we go. I apparently don't follow them, so I'm a bad person. Where is? Maybe it wasn't them. Somebody basically showed the way the math works is it's not sales. It is, and it's not profit. It is removed money from the books. So like, let's say you have so like, for example, Jadon Sancho will count as money removed from the books for the purposes of the Champions League registration. His wages plus his loan fee will count as a number that goes off. Similarly, Amugu, because Amugu was registered to the A list, his fee and wages will go off. Madueke, fee and wages go off. So on. Because it is, yeah, it's relinquished assets, basically. The amount of money going off of that registration versus the new stuff coming on. And it's that number. So the way they do it is because they want your wages as a percent, your cost as a percentage of revenues to come down, or as a percentage of turnover. So you can increase the turnover, but for their registration, those numbers have to go down. The other thing that's weird is that Levi Colwill now has to be A-list because Levi Colwill now has to be A-list because he has aged out of the B list. So like you have to account for his wages being added. History Matters. It might have been History Matters. I do follow that guy. Matters. There we go. Oh, I apparently don't. I'm a bad person. I don't follow anybody. Where did he put it? I don't know. I don't know if it was him. It was a while ago. Maybe it was Sabrina. I think it might have been Sabrina. Steph Sab says. I don't follow any of these accounts. This is how you know I'm a bad person. I'll see the stuff, but I just can't. I can't do it. I don't know. I can't remember who posted it. Anyways, doesn't matter. But basically, they showed how like Sancho, Amugu, some of the other guys going on loan. They'll show like the wages go off, and then the inbound players get registered, and it all works out just fine. So it's actually not very hard for Chelsea to accomplish this squad. I would not be worried about it very much at all. So that is nice. What's very funny is I co-own my gambling team with another guy, and he just texted me saying, "Can't wait for your stupid tennis hunch to be wrong," because I thought Alcaraz was going to win today. Yeah, for the full FFP, like everything comes into it. But that's like a separate thing where it's like, can you get out of that hole? A question that came on Blue Sky was from Island Time Phil, who was saying, which of the big six leagues, where Portugal are the sixth league, are you most skeptical about when it comes to league translation to the Prem? Least skeptical. Does it vary by position? Thank you. And this is a good one because, and this was in relation to me talking about Bakayoko. I think so from a translation standpoint, like I think pretty clearly now Spain translates just fine to the Premier League. I think you have a lot of nerves about the Bundesliga. I think you have a lot of nerves about I think you have a lot of nerves about some things in Italy and some things not. And I think France, you're pretty confident about translation, but like you understand the drop-offs. And then Portugal, I think there are a lot of caveats. So in order of like most skeptical, I'd say Bundesliga Portugal, and least skeptical, I'd say Spain, pretty comfortably. But all of them have like different risks you have to be mindful of. Like Bundesliga specifically, like you have to be really weary about players who snap in transition. Like you got to be real careful. Spain, even though the translation is probably the best, you have to be really careful about like, does this guy farm end of table teams for Barcelona? Like, is it not a starter? Are they just like dominating Elche every year? France, we've seen like the physical and the defending stuff translates, but the passing less so. Portugal, you have to be really, really careful about like Benfica, Porto, and Sporting only have good games against each other, and everyone else in that league is not very good. So it's much more context specific than just like how does the league translate, as much as like how does the team's context in the league translate. Because like if someone is putting up bonkers numbers for like the worst team in Portugal, that's pretty interesting no matter what. So you have to be very, very cognizant of that. And it does vary by position too. Like I would say like goalkeepers, pretty agnostic position. I think center backs in Germany translate, like Bundesliga doesn't translate well to the Premier League, except for center back. I think center back translates amazingly well because in the Bundesliga, all these guys have to do is defend like the most ridiculous. Oh, he's serving for the match, so we'll see if that happens. Center backs in the Bundesliga are defending the most insane, crazy transitions every game, and then they go to the Prem with a little bit more structure, and they're like, "Great, we're chilling, we're vibing." So that I think works pretty well. But like Bundesliga attackers, I'm out. Me on the flip side, Sinner one, thank you. That is very lovely for me and my bank account. Um, but so in Serie A is like a little bit of a slower league, more goals. I'm pretty skeptical about Defender League translation back to the Premier League. Like Renato Vega went and looked like one of the best center backs in the league. But I really like midfielder translation to England from Serie A because it's a little bit more slower, a little bit tactical, a little bit more tactical. There's a little bit more structure, so it's harder to rack up progressive numbers as a midfielder in Italy. Um, and I already mentioned the like France and passing thing, so I think it's very difficult to paint with broad strokes, but like you should be mindful of different things. There's the fun. There's a paper by some guys who used to work for Opta. I did it on a podcast a few weeks ago. That was like you can feed in like you feed in basically all the information about the player, country, club, position, a bunch of metrics, whatever, and it tells you how those things should change and relative to league strength and team strength and all that thing, which is cool. So we'll see. See on that one. All right, get your transfer questions in, and then we'll get out of here, and then we'll go watch the game because God knows I'm not streaming this final because we'll lose 10-0 if I do. And he said, did we impulse sell Nani? I don't think it was an impulse. I think it was like they were approached. They asked Nani if he wanted to leave. He's like, yes, and they did it. That's, I think, how it looks. So we shall see. Why do I think our Tuchel team seem better for knockouts compared to the league? How does the squad compare to that one? Good question. So if you look at, if you model knockout football and you look at teams that succeed in knockout play versus teams that succeed in league play, and the number one factor that drives tournament win probability is XG against. It's defensive ability. So when you think about it, it makes sense, right? Like if you have a knockout tie and you can drive your to concede probability to 0, your to advance probability at worst drops to 50%, no matter what. So you have a very, 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 very high floor for knockout ball when you are an excellent defensive team. And the Tuchel teams were unbelievable defensively. In the league, your attack drives your finishing position much more, significantly more. Not all the way more. Like if you put up 100 goals but you concede 60, or actually if you put up 100 and concede 60, you might still win the league. But it is much more about your attack than it is about your defense in the league when you do the modeling out. But in knockouts, like, yeah, the defending stuff is huge. And that's why I think that swings. In terms of how does the squad compare, I think that squad was better. But you have to think, like, Jorginho, Kovacic, Rudiger, Thiago Silva, like, a lot of Pete Conte, Mount, a lot of, like, peak-aged, really good players in that team. Like, people criticize Jorginho and Kovacic. Jorginho and Kovacic to walk into this Chelsea team. They're both excellent players. So we'll see. We'll see on that front. Thoughts on Morgan Gibb White and Kudus to Spurs? How well do I see them doing? So Spurs' business is weird because they're not going to be able to register everybody for they're not going to be able to register everybody in the Champions League because they don't have any like academy guys. Panofooty says, "Hi guys, I'm still stuck in traffic trying to park. I hate MetLife." Well, you are going to the game, my friend, so enjoy the game is what I will say to you. And if it's a fun time, let us know how it is next time we're on stream. I think with Spurs, I'm lower on Kudus than other people are. I think he's a good player. I would not have paid that much money. Again, I think you look at Madueke and you're like, we couldn't even get that much money. But like I think he's a good player. I think he will be pretty good for them. Like they need a high volume dribbling winger pretty badly. The Gibbs White one I think is less good. Like I don't I think he's like considerably overrated as a player. I certainly would not have paid the fee that Spurs are paying, but I also think Thomas Frank is like really smart, and I think he's a very very good coach, and he will get a lot out of their guys. I think is kind of how I see it. So I would expect them. They were much better than their finishing position last year. I don't think they will quite be Champions League competitive, but I would expect them to be like 6, 7, 8, kind of like low 60s points is probably where I would put them. Maybe high 50s, something like that. Um, I didn't like them getting Tell. I don't really rate Tell, but we'll see. I'm very curious to see how they actually play. Um, Bad Rabbits. Do I think Tammy Abraham is good enough to stay at Chelsea? Yeah, 100%. 100%. I thought that was a weird sale at the time, but it has not really worked for him outside of this. Fuzzbrain, who would be my forever right center back to pair with Levi? I don't know. I haven't really thought about that much. Like, I really liked the idea of going and getting Konate if his contract kind of winds down with Liverpool. That's a deal I'd be pretty into. I think he's really, really good, but he's not super fit. But that's a player I would like. Thomas Wilkinson doesn't have a score prediction. My score prediction is Chelsea lose 2-1. That's my score prediction. And apparently Palmer's warming up on the left, Neto on the right, which is interesting. My top options for Cucurella backup. A player that I have started to like a lot because somebody recommended them on chat in the stream, and then I watched some video and did some data. Is this guy, Arthur Theat? He's a big boy, and he's much more left back, left center back. Big boy, like, and he can play. Like he can pass, he can carry. Like this guy's very interesting for that role. Um, like picture like Vega, but can move. Like I like him a lot. As a backup, I don't think he starts for us, but like interesting player. Other than that, like Hato is the one that people like, but I don't know. Andy, would I swap Maresca and Thomas Frank? Are Jorginho and Kovacic better than Moy and Enzo? Would I swap Maresca and Thomas Frank? Yeah, probably. Is my gut reaction. I'd have to think about it more, but probably. Are Jorginho and Kovacic better than Moy and Enzo? I think Jorginho and Kovacic at their best are as good as. I think Jorginho and Kovacic fit together better at their best than Moises and Enzo do at their best. I think Moises is. I think Kovacic at his best is the best of the four, which is probably an unpopular opinion. And then it's Moises, and then it's Enzo, and then it's Jorginho. But like you would play three of those guys, any combination of three of those guys, and it would be a really good team. No matter how you arranged any three of those, and it would be an amazing midfield. But I like them all. Like they were. Jorginho was frustrating, but he's very good at something. Gibbs White stuff is fun for Spurs. Palace thing is turning me against Force. Force suck. I hate them, and I hope everybody they buy sucks. And I hope they get sneaky relegated. It'd be so funny. For all the drama, if they went down, it would be glorious. Okay. All right, I'm gonna wrap it all here. Enjoy the game. Hopefully, I'm wrong and my prediction is wrong. If you're at the game, have fun. And as a reminder, if Malo Gusto scores the winner, who I had forgot was starting until I just said that, and now I'm sad again. But if Malo Gusto or Dewsbury Hall score the winner, I will buy a knockoff kit and give it away on stream of their name, which is very funny. Anyways, that is all from me. See how the game goes. There'll be a podcast that comes out tonight, and we will we will see how it goes. From your Coventry take, I can tell you're a big Dembele guy. I liked Moussa Dembele a lot. Let's see. All right, enjoy the game, my friends.